episode of the Forsyth Mags podcast. And today I have Mike McGilvary and Stephen Gallo, financial advisors and equity owners at Marzano Capital Group. What's up, guys?
Hey.
How's
that was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful.
I didn't have any notes to look at either.
Yeah. I feel like we needed a drum roll for that one, right? Yeah.
So how's it going? I haven't had Marzano Capital Group on in a minute.
Yeah, wow, what's going on?
Have you ever been on?
I don't know if I've ever done your pod. I think I might have a chamber.
You were on a chamber one.
I mean,
Greater conversation.
Right. Yeah. You were on a chamber one.
Okay. I know you've been on.
Tim's been the
Tim's the man.
Steady constant and all of that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. So John's been on. We'll get John back on next time.
Yeah, John and I did one last time.
Yeah.
That was a number of years ago now.
It was. Well, I ask Alyssa all the time. So.
Hey, well, thanks for having us back.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So I want to do a couple little get to know you questions.
Okay.
First, no pressure.
Yep. Don't put me on the spot.
This one's very appropriate. If you could be guaranteed one thing in life besides money, what would it be?
Guaranteed one thing in life.
I've got mine.
Oh, go ahead.
Health.
That's a good one.
Health. Because
you got nothing without health.
You can have all the money in the world, but you ain't got health.
Yep.
So practical. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's hear your unpractical.
I mean, if I could have one thing guaranteed, it'd be awesome to know what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Especially in our line of work,
a crystal
right?
ball.
Yeah, the crystal ball would be cool. Health is a good one, though. I mean, I think Mike's right. You know, I think being healthy and being able to do goes a long way.
Oh, absolutely. I could not agree more. Okay, one more question. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
We'll let Stephen go first.
Let's
He's
hear
ahead of the
Steven.
race.
I made it here today, baby, you know.
Made it to the studio.
On time and all.
Yeah.
I mean, the greatest achievement, that's such a tough one. I mean, I look at those questions all the time. I'm like, how would I answer that?
Yeah.
And I have no
That's
clue.
why I'm asking y'all, because I don't know my answer either.
Right? That's good. That's like a normal thing, not to actually know what your greatest achievement is.
Yeah, especially when you're asked on the spot. That's tricky.
Yeah. Professionally, personally.
I mean, either or.
Yeah. Professionally, I think it was, was having the opportunity to buy in and become an owner of Marzano Capital Group.
Cool.
I think for me, I'm 35. I turned 35 March 11th.
Yesterday.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
That's right. Happy birthday.
You
You
were
were out yesterday.
I was out yesterday.
Celebrating.
Yeah, trying. But yeah, I would say that's professionally. Personally, obviously, it's having a beautiful family and that kind of thing, beautiful wife, right?
Yep.
But I would say the ownership piece of Marzano Capital Group is my greatest professional achievement thus far.
Especially at your age, because how long that's been years now, right?
Yeah, 2019, I had the opportunity.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Good opportunity, good family connections with the business too. But,
sure.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Stephen.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, professionally, the greatest achievement is probably just seeing how much growth we've done at Marzano Capital Group since I've been part of it.
How long have you been there?
2010 is when I joined.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was just like John and his dad and your mom, Angela, there in the office. And then I came in, and then it's just kind of seeing that we're now like at 7 folks. And just the amount of growth that we've seen really in the last 5 years. But, I mean, over that, I guess, almost 15-year period of time, we've come a long way. It's been fun. It's been fun to be a part of. It's just been fun to see happen.
Yeah. I like that.
Well said.
So let's dive into a little bit of history of Marzano Capital Group, because y'all have both been there for a really long time. So tell us a little bit about that history.
I mean, really, I guess the formation of it was like Art Marzano, which was John's dad, was like an Edward Jones guy.
1984.
1984. So maybe like one of the first Edward Jones offices, like probably in the area.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so he was naturally in the business. John, he went to Charlotte.
Yeah.
He worked, I think, with in some like venture capital and like before he kind of went to work with his dad, joined Edward Jones, and then in
it was 05 they left.
I think in 05 they broke away from Edward Jones to go independent and kind of start their own business.
Yeah. They're the same age as the magazine then. Yeah. We started in
It's kind of
05.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of been hand in hand to kind of, to watch y'all's growth has kind of been almost parallel with the growth of our business as well.
I didn't know we were the exact same age. Very cool.
Been great partners along the way too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. John has been working with my parents for as long as I can remember. And then I've been working with Mike as long as I can remember.
High school.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's the other interesting thing about, I think, our firm too, is like, right, all 4 advisors, John and I graduated from West Forsyth. Like, I've known John since we were like 11 years old, and we played
I did not know that.
Clemens
That's cool.
Cougars basketball. We were on the same team. And so when we graduated from West, Brandon graduated from West, Mike graduated from West. So it's like we've got this whole kind of
That's so cool. I did not realize that.
Some financial firms pull out of Ivy League, we pull out of West Forsyth.
There you go. And don't y'all sometimes use the West Forsyth, what is it, Finance Academy? Don't y'all partner with them?
Yep. So we have partnered with the Academy of Finance in the past. I actually was a graduate of the Academy of Finance from West Forsyth. Mom and Dad kind of pushed me towards that way, just with her having that connection with John and Stephen and Art. And so, it's been good to have the community partners and to kind of have that hometown feel.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was going to say next, is I think that's what sets Marzano apart in my mind, because I know there can be a stereotype occasionally about financial advisors and can I trust them with my money or whatever, but I know that my family and me personally, we have such tight-knit relationships with y'all that I would always trust you guys with my money. I would never be like, I don't know if they know what they're doing. I'm like, they know what they're doing a lot more than I know what I'm doing. So
that's awesome. That's just awesome to hear,
it's
right?
Great to hear.
I can't tell you the number of clients that we have that we're working with, like the 2nd and 3rd generation.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes for what y'all are doing at Marzano. That's very cool.
And it's cool to see, right? Because again, being privileged to jump into a good situation that Art started back in '84, and then John expanded on, then Stephen expanded on, then I expanded on, and now that Brandon and some other folks are trying to expand on, not to mention Mom and Alyssa, right? They've been invaluable too. But if you've got an older client that, unfortunately passes away, and their beneficiaries have already met with the team, or maybe they're a younger beneficiary and they want to meet with a younger advisor, or maybe they're a beneficiary that's in their retirement red zone and they want to meet with somebody that's got a little gray hair.
Yeah.
We've got that situation to where we can kind of plug and play, and clients can really get what they're asking for.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I know I work with you and we're very similar ages. Not that I would be opposed to working with an older advisor, but I think it's important that you're kind of on the same playing field as me. We both probably have similar financial goals and timing wise, since we're similar ages.
Life goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to dive into,
I like how you escaped that ageism there.
I was going to say,
by the hair of my
you're talking about sitting with a gray hair. I was like, I remember when my hair first started turning gray, and I was
mine's starting.
and people were like, "Oh, you're turning gray," and I was like, pumped, because I was like,
That's
now you got a
wisdom.
little bit of wisdom in there. Exactly.
wisdom.
That's
That
exactly
doesn't
right.
really mean anything.
No, it doesn't, man. After a while, I'm just glad I still have hair, man. Let's be honest.
I mean, that's true. I love that. So I want to talk a little bit about the different age groups. For people who are listening to this, we can start with our 20s. So if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, what you should be focused on financially, and what your kind of goals should be.
Yeah. Stephen, I'll let him kind of, take this and run with it. But the biggest thing that he always preaches is savings rate for young folks. Looking at a percentage of your income, how much you're saving, because like you always say, that's going to trump any growth that happens on that money, probably for the first 5 to 10 years.
Man, it's actually 15 years.
Right.
Your savings rate is going to drive your account balance more than your investment returns. And if you make $100,000 a year, you save 10%, so you're saving $10,000. You invest that, and let's say it's up 30% in a given year. You made $3,000. That's awesome, but you're coming back in 3 times as much. That's what you're saving. And so it's not until 15, 20 years down the road where a marginal return in the market is adding to your account more than what you're able to add to the account. And that's when the compounding effect really kind of takes off.
Yeah.
And the best way to get there, right, that 15-year period is you got to start and just build that habit, right? And so it's, you talk about savings. It's like living below your means. I think the biggest thing in your 20s is just start saving. Try to save as much as you can. 10% is a good place to start. Pay yourself first. Like, make that the top priority. And then just work on building your skills, trying to get to a point where you can get a higher and higher income.
Yeah, I know especially in your 20s, which feels like forever. It's been a while since I was in my 20s, but that you live off what you have. So if you put that savings away, that's what I always still do to this day. I put whatever I'm saving away so that I can't touch it. Because if it's in my checking account, I'm going to spend it.
Like most Americans, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that's it. And just automate. That's the other secret, right?
Yeah.
If you just say, all right, I'm going to save X amount and just have it done automatically, it just starts to get done. And then as your income is going to grow, right? I mean, I can tell you if you're at your 20s, chances are your income's going to grow. Mm-hmm. You've already kind of built that habit. And so as that grows, your savings grows. And so it's just a good first step.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the other things to kind of focus on the younger demographic here before we move to kind of that next stage is the younger demographic should continue to save non-retirement monies as well. So non-retirement meaning non-IRA, non-401k. You need to be doing all that too. But non-retirement, emergency funds, having a non-retirement brokerage account out there that you've got something systematic going into, because things are going to come up. And if you don't necessarily have the money, unless it's in your retirement plan,
you don't want to pull it out from
you're
there.
penalized.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of young 30s have to go through that.
I made that mistake.
I mean, a lot of people do.
It's like you're preached, like, oh, Social Security is not going to be there. You need to save for your retirement. And I'm just like, all right, I'm saving everything into retirement. And then life gets in the way. Something happens, and you're like, I need to get my hands on some cash, and everything you've got's got hurdles to get to.
And it's nice, right? It's great because you built this nice nest egg, and you're on your way.
Yeah.
But
tell us a little bit, which I'm sure most people know, but for those who don't, so what the difference between a Roth IRA and the whatever the other one is. I have a Roth.
Traditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much you can max out your Roth every year, and those kind of just basic little details for people who are like, I don't even know where to start on a retirement.
Right. I usually like to look at savings, like you split it up into two buckets, right? And you've got retirement and non-retirement.
Okay.
And that's probably the best way to think about it. Retirement is long-term money. Those accounts typically have some sort of restriction to it, right? Contribution limitations, how much you can put in, when you can take it out, those kind of things. And that's retirement. And then non-retirement is maybe brokerage account, emergency fund, savings account. And so I think it's good to think of it that way. And within retirement, you have basically post-tax and pre-tax, right? Roth is after tax. So it's just like you're saving money in there. There's no tax deduction for putting money into that account. It grows tax deferred. And when you take it out in retirement, right, after 60, it comes out tax free. Whereas traditional, you get a tax deduction. It goes in pre-tax for making the contribution. It grows tax deferred. But in retirement, it comes out taxed. And I think probably the way I typically advise folks is if you need the tax deduction, then you go traditional, right? If you don't, if you're getting a refund back, if you're in your 20s, chances are you're probably not paying a whole lot of taxes. You're not making a whole lot of money either, but you're not paying a whole lot in taxes. And so if I'm putting savings towards retirement, I'm going to want to use a Roth because that's going to have the longest amount of time to compound. That's going to give you some flexibility in retirement on how your income is going to be taxed because you can pull some out of the non-tax bucket, you can pull some out of the tax bucket.
Okay.
I think that's probably, I don't know, there might be a little bit more long-winded way of kind of looking at it, right?
That's an easy way to explain it. I like that.
Contribution limits, I think, for 2024 are $7,000 for folks under 50, and then those over 50 can make a contribution another $1,000. So $8,000.
Yeah, they keep upping that every year, it seems. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And, like Steven said, the cool thing is like when we're working with younger folks and you start seeing them transition to, you know, their higher income earnings years, and all of a sudden you see where they were putting monies into Roth IRA, Roth 401k, and now all of a sudden they're coming to us and they're saying, hey, Mike, I need you to chat with my accountant because I had a $5,000 I owed this past year. Like, what's going on? Helping people understand that's a function of success. There are things you can do about it, but paying taxes is a function of success. So, you know, working with a financial advisor to come up with a savings plan, whether it should be going after tax, whether it should be going Roth, whether it should be going traditional, is really important for all facets, but especially for that younger 20, 30, 40 age gap.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I've never thought about that, about taxes, but
It's hard to think that way, right?
it hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
when you get that unexpected tax bill.
Yeah, but as a small business owner, there's things that you can do about that for the next year too.
Yeah.
You know, which
To
is
kind of
cool.
better prepare you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And even as an employee, high income earning employee as well.
Yeah. So, okay, we talked about people in their 20s. What happens when you get to your 30s? What should you be more focused on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that, you know,
Yeah.
age right now, that age range right now, and
Right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle. And you know, lucky enough to have 2 kids, and so you know, as soon as that Social Security number came in for them, their 529 plans were set up for college savings. You know, luckily I was blessed enough to be around some good mentors like Steven and John as I was growing up because I was around the business a lot, and so you know, I was lucky enough to have mindset to do some non-IRA savings. So, you know, when I first started getting into this business back in 2014, you know, I started from scratch and I was kind of, you know, going out there knocking on doors and doing that kind of stuff. And I mean, there were some lean months because you're getting started. So it was nice to have that to fall back on to kind of get my business started in a sense, and then to have the opportunity there. So I think as a 30-year-old, it's, you know, making sure you've got the automated buckets in place, HSA, 529s for kids, your non-retirement, but also focusing on what the next chapter is. Do you want a beach house? Do you want a lake house? You want the Porsche? What do you really want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Not that it has to be materialistic. Do you want to give back?
Yeah. Do you want to be able to retire early?
Right. Yeah. Do you want to walk away from work at 50?
Yeah.
You know, so really try, you know, after you've got your savings plan and you've been working your tail off in your 20s to try, you know, find success, once you feel like you've started to find some of that success in your 30s, it's really starting to outline those goals of, hey, this is what I want the next 10 to 20 to 30 years to look like.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't mean it's like, oh, I'm just going to work till I die. No, like, what do you want to do? And, you know, along the way while you're working too.
Yeah. I like that. All right. So what about when you get to your 40s?
I mean, so I'm coming towards the end of that for me.
You're still in it.
No, I think at 40 is a good time to kind of take a check. Like, all right, hopefully you've been saving in your retirement plan. You know, you've bought the house.
What if you have not?
Have not bought the house?
Have not bought the house or started saving for retirement? Would you say what would your suggestion be?
Time to get started.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Time to get started, and being really realistic about it. It's not too late. You know, I mean, chances are you're going to be working for probably another 20 years or so. I don't know. It just depends on what you've been doing at that point in time too, right? There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that may have not been saving towards retirement, but have value locked up in the business that they created.
Yep.
So at that,
Yeah.
So I mean, at 40, I think if you're in that situation, or even if you've been working at, you know, at a corporation and been putting into the retirement plan and everything, like this is where you're like, all right. At 40, retirement still feels far enough away, but you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as foreign as a
You can
concept as
see
it
the
would be at
light
20.
at the end.
Well, you just know some people that maybe you've worked with that you know are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your parents have definitely kind of full blown into retirement, and you kind of see it. You just want to make sure like you're either moving in the right direction or where you need to make your course corrects.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing at 40. And if you're moving in the right direction, and everything's funding, then at that point in time, if you've got more disposable income, that's when you buy the Porsche, you look at getting the
Take
beach
the
house,
vacation.
you take the bigger vacations and that stuff because your kids are probably at an age where they're little easier to deal with, right? They're not. I mean, and I say that like Mike's got two like real young kids at home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just corralling.
You're not taking them to a resort,
No,
probably.
or
What
if
is
you
sleep?
do, yeah, but it's not easy. But I mean, in your 40s, your kids are probably like at least in school. They're school age, so they can travel and they love to go places and they're a lot of fun. And I think that time's short. I mean, my son's he's getting ready to finish up his freshman year in high school. I know he's going to be out of the house in a few years. I mean, time's of the essence. So I want to make
take
sure.
advantage.
Yeah, I want to make sure like we're taking full advantage of that. So
Yeah.
So I'm asking for a friend.
sure.
If you're 53-ish and have nary a penny saved for retirement, how screwed are you?
Well, you know, and again, going back to Steven's point, if you're a small business owner, you've got an asset you've built. You know, if you've got a business that is providing income for you and your family, it's probably good to sit down with a financial advisor, but it's probably good to start sitting down with your accountant too to figure out what your business is actually valued at, because you've put a lot of your sweat equity and your investment into that business. So doesn't mean you're necessarily on the deep end, right? Probably still a good idea to start a savings plan and to
Right. It just depends on the business, right? Too. I mean, some businesses have equity and there's active markets
Right.
that you can sell a business to. Other businesses are, they've generated good income, but, what am I selling? And then you've got to just figure out, all right, I need to monetize this somehow, and I'm going to be pulling all the income I can out of it, and I need to save X amount.
Yeah.
Structuring, honestly, like I always thought this was weird because as a business owner, you can kind of pay yourself and take a distribution to kind of manage your tax situation. But I remember Doris, which was our accountant, like way back when, she was like, well, you might also want to think about taking more as an income because that's going to push your Social Security up. So in retirement, depending on where you are as a business
More
owner.
you pay in.
I've never thought about that.
And that's goes against what sometimes you want to think about, but at another point in time, it kind of makes some sense too. Just depends on how you've prepared for retirement or what you need to do to prepare.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this friend has also not paid into Social Security in the last 15, 20 years.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, kind of getting a picture of where you're at, and, starting to have those conversations would be important. Again, a lot of people don't ever want to retire. There's people that just enjoy what they do.
Keela.
Yeah.
right.
Well said. Well said. But like Steven said, there's certain businesses that have equity and that trade on open markets or there's buyers out there in open markets. There's also small business succession, finding a successor and transitioning to him or her over a time period and you getting a payout over time. So you kind of have built yourself a pension as well.
Oh.
So there's all kinds of ways you can slice it. But at 53, it's time to start planning.
Right.
Yeah, I believe my friend is screwed. So he will have to deal with that, I think. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
Yeah. So we already dove into 50s and then 60s. When are y'all seeing your clients retiring on average? What age are you kind of seeing people? Or is it just like a huge variance?
I mean, I've got a comment about the whole like COVID, after COVID type situation. But, prior to me joining the firm in 2014, you guys were probably seeing folks retiring at what? Between 60 and 65?
60 and 70. Yeah.
60 and 70?
I think it all depends on the situation.
And like you said, some people genuinely don't want to retire.
Well, like people retire for 4 reasons, right? It's like their health goes bad and they're like, I'm no longer going to work. Or they hate their job so much, they're like, I can't wake up and do this anymore. Or their family forces them to, or they can't do it anymore, right? Like they cognitively, physically just can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we see. And it's like, it's just depends on the individual, their gig, what they like, what's going on with the company they're working for.
How demanding it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that over the past, call it 3 years, I have had more people come into my office that are in their early 50s wanting to know if they can walk away at 55.
Wow.
Just, like, hey, going through the whole COVID thing, a lot of them, are just like, hey, time's precious. Work's changed. It's just one of those things where I want to see where I'm at and is it actually feasible?
Yeah. That's really interesting.
All the more reason to have more non-retirement savings too.
Yeah, because you have to wait till you're 60.
59 and a half. So yeah, call it
59 and a
60.
half. Okay.
I mean, there's ways around the penalty, right? But really, you just got to be 60 before you start really pulling out of those retirement accounts.
That's a good point. My brother always says he wants to retire at like some crazy age, like 42 or something. So
Well, it's the answer to everything.
he better have lots of non-retirement
Well, I'll say, like,
savings.
the folks that retire,
I would
after
be so
you
bored.
get to the point, like, can you or can you not? Is it feasible? Is it not feasible? It's, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
How are you going to fill your time?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny to watch because, my dad is very happily retired.
Yeah.
He was a combination of the four things you said.
Right.
My mom tried it for about 5 minutes and was like, no, not for me. I'm going to start a new magazine. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's funny to watch how, and I'm seeing the similar situations with their friends too. It's like some people think they want to retire and then they get there, they're like, and then some people they can't wait and they thrive.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is like focusing on the hobbies that you want to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you enjoy? Like me, like listen, I like to play guitar. I like to work out. I like to work on cars. I like that kind of stuff. I like to play golf. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to get better at golf, right? So
When you have more time to play.
right? Yeah, so like I'm envisioning that my retirement is going to be full of those things.
Yeah.
On top of family stuff and that kind of stuff too. So making sure that's probably going back to your 30s and 40s is having those list of things that what do you want retirement to look like too?
Yeah.
Because that way you can actually start making a difference and putting a plan in place to do it.
Yeah. Well, and another question I just thought of. So for any parents listening who have younger kids, maybe a little bit older than Mike's kids, but a little bit younger than yours, how do you prepare them for financial success as a parent? What are some things that you like to instill in their brain?
Oh, man. I mean, talk to them constantly about finances and
Be transparent, right?
yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily your finances, but just how things work. I mean, I don't know, like my son is like, maybe I've pushed him to be engineering focused. He's always been science focused. He's like, I want to be a biologist. Like, no, you want to be a biological engineer. And he's like, why? I'm like, because like, ask Siri how much a biologist make, and then ask him how much a biological engineer makes, and the engineer always was like twice to three times, if not four times more. And I was like, you just got to think about that kind of thing. So I mean, I think that's part of it. Just talk to them about finances. Hopefully, model good behavior. If you don't have good behavior, try to correct it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of huge. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean. Get them. Like my son. Get him to open up a bank account. Get him to figure out how those kind of things work. Mm-hmm. Just financial literacy, like the basics.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I mean, you kind of get the basics in, and really that's a head start in today's world.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I know from watching, because I'm 34, and I'm watching a lot of people my age, and it's just you can tell a really big difference in those that had parents that instilled those good financial habits and those that did not have as much, they didn't teach them as much about it, or maybe it was just a taboo topic to talk about.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's kind of the shift too, is just having an open conversation about it. I mean, Marzano Capital Group tries to do a really good job of financial literacy programs. I know that, we've done some presentations in the past with various nonprofits. I've got 2 this week, doing some seminars and some workshops, I should say, for nonprofits and actually a for-profit company that just wants some general information about financial literacy and portfolio management and all that jazz. But having an open conversation, I think, is just the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would agree.
I tell Waverly every morning when she's like, "Daddy, I don't want you to go to work." I'm like, "Baby, I'm going to work because I gotta make sure that we can do the things we want to do."
Yeah.
And she's starting to kind of put 2 and 2 together. So
yeah.
It's cool to see that, but I'm hoping just to kind of continue that to make sure that she always understands the value of hard work and the value of a dollar.
Yeah, I think that's huge. My parents, shout out to Keela and Tim, they did a great job teaching me all the financial skills. Growing up.
Small business owners too, right?
Yeah, having both parents as small business owners, you definitely learn a lot because there is no PTO, there is no retirement matches. Like it is what it is. It's not help from a big corporation. So a little bit different, but still good.
You're the big corporation when you're
Exactly.
The Forsyth Mags empire.
The enterprise.
So last question: is Marzano Capital Group taking on new clients right now?
So that's a great question. And so we've actually been having this conversation here in the office recently because we've been so privileged to have the book of business grow tremendously over the past, 14 years since Stephen, since 2005, obviously tremendously, but even since I've grown, I've seen tremendous growth.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of hard work on all of our fronts to get there. And so, we're putting together, I don't want to say small account, but a under certain threshold account program.
Okay.
We're trying to put that together to make sure that the level of service is where it needs to be for those accounts.
Okay.
Obviously, the larger accounts require a little bit more service and that kind of stuff, and that's where we need to be focusing our times just because that's, what we do. So traditionally, I think at this point, if you're looking for a savings plan, we're open to having a conversation with you. I think, the minimum that we've kind of drawn out there is about $250,000.
Okay.
So that's kind of going to be a new thing for 2024. Again, always happy to have a conversation and to see if it's a fit. And there's exceptions always, right? But that's kind of the minimum that we're, looking to service moving forward, just to make sure the client base we've already got continues to get the service.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But we're still growing. It's funny.
Yeah.
Have you noticed there's a lot of folks out there that are not taking on new clients,
yeah.
or they're
Yeah.
and everybody's getting I'm sure part of that's like social media, niche marketing, right? But everybody's getting hyper specific on who they want to work with.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great to get to a point in your business where you can essentially turn down somebody who you don't want to work with. I know that sounds harsh, but
I was going to say, I think that was you go back to what's your biggest achievement? And I'm like, that's it. It's you get to that point where you can say no or
because
or
when you're
fire
first starting, man, you take anything
take it all.
you can
Find
get.
them here? Okay. Yeah.
And we've all had that one client where we were just like, why?
Yeah. What do they say that I don't know if this applies to y'all. It probably does, but the people that take up 80% of your
the Pareto principle, right?
Yeah.
20% of your business is driven, or 80% of your business is driven by 20% of your clients.
Yeah.
And then you always have the
20%
smaller clients that are always the biggest
That
pain in the
80-20
butt.
rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I butchered it, but you did good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks,
so again,
y'all.
we'll point people in the right direction. But that's kind of something new, as far as,
That's
make sure
awesome.
that our current client base is taken care of.
That's a big milestone. Y'all should be really proud of that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. You've done a great job too, by the way. It's been awesome to watch you.
You've been hustling.
Kind of take
you.
over and just put your own stamp on these things.
Do the
it's
thing.
Been awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's y'all know how hard it is, but it's worth it. It's fun.
You've been hustling.
Yeah. Starting a gym, doing all the things.
Doing all the things.
That's my goal, is for the gym to be more, I can be more behind the scenes and just, have that, what do they call it? Mailbox money?
Residual. Yep.
We're all trying to
Residual
get to
income.
mailbox money.
Buy all the properties.
Yeah.
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 Well, we'll have to have you guys back on sooner than, I don't know, the 3 years that it's been.
Probably.
Alyssa, we'll get Alyssa, we'll get John, we'll get whoever, Angela, whoever wants to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we need to bring the whole team out.
Sit them all around the table.
Yeah, Brandon.
Oh, Lord.
Y'all's team just keeps growing. I love
We
it.
got Thomas now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Thomas.
Thomas now, too. Yeah.
That's great. He's also a West Forsyth graduate, right?
No, Wake
No.
Forest.
Oh,
He may
dang
be the
it.
first.
Yeah.
Ah,
He's
Thomas.
from Concord.
He's not an advisor yet.
Okay.
He's working on it. So, yeah.
Wake Forest is the next best
We're
thing.
sending him back. He's got a couple courses he needs to take at West before.
Before y'all can officially let him in.
Yeah.
I love it.
We'll take him.
Well, Marzano Capital Group, you can find them online at marzanocapitalgroup.com, I'm assuming.
Correct.
That's a good guess. Amy will put that in the show notes. And as always, you can find Forsyth Mags. All of our content is on our website, forsythmags.com, including some Marzano Capital Group content. They have a monthly column in our magazines. And you can find us on social media at Forsyth Mags. And that's a wrap for today. The views and opinions stated on this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Forsyth Magazines Incorporated. Whew, that's a mouthful.